Well, good evening, everyone. So glad that you all could join us. I do see the ticker is steady going. I did want to thank you guys always. Thank you guys for everything that you continue to do for Texas, everything that you continue to do for your community, how you guys are braving everything and still trying to make sure, even though our winter storm, we had some people still trying to make sure that they were able to service some people. I hope you guys came out well. I'm so glad we all made it through. I know some of us had to go through some things that some of us didn't, but we're so glad that we all are on the other side of that winter. Just this morning, my husband was talking about it's 30 something degrees again. We thought we were through with freezing weather in some places. So glad again that you guys made it through, and welcome. We didn't have our meeting 2 weeks in a row, one because we were in the middle of a storm. And then last week, we knew you were trying to make sure you got yourself back together, and just that's difficult to stop and have this kind of call. So we wanted to be sensitive to your efforts and what you had to do. And I know even now, even for this one, it's a lot lower than what we've been having on this call, but I didn't want it to skip and you be wondering about what's going on. What have we heard from USDA? What is TDA doing? So we have probably a small meeting for you today, but we want to give you the information that we do have. In regards to our Q&A, when we finish the agenda that we have for you today, we will open the chat and you'll be able to ask any questions that you have, whether it was agenda topic or not. Any question that you have, we'll address those at that time. Anything that we don't get addressed, then we will put it in our Q&A. We also have continuing to have our meetings with our education service centers to make sure that they have the information that they need to provide to you and assist you. So if you can't get to us on this call, you don't get your question answered, you can definitely talk to your ESC and they'll be able to answer your question or get the information to get it back to you quickly. I do want to let you know also that the Texas Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition is continuing to work remotely. I know some of you might be questioning that or have a question about that after yesterday, but we are working remotely. We will transition at some point in the future, but we won't be transitioning next week. We are still doing at this time, planning to do our reviews virtually. We do go on site for things that we need to go on site for, but that's not as much as we would have been had we been doing straight on-site reviews. So we still will have virtual reviews. I think that will help you guys as well. We're still going to be making sure that we can keep you safe and keep our staff safe, and making sure that we honor whatever guidelines and requirements that you might have out as well. I know that it is a priority of Secretary Vilsack and the Biden administration that the schools do have what they need to open, that we have good nutrition, and that the schools have the money they need to handle the pandemic that we're in. That's what I heard were some of their priorities. So I thought I'd share those with you, that you are on their mind, the Biden administration's mind, in regards to what needs to happen. And I know that our own administration, Commissioner Miller, wants to make sure that we continue to provide you with what you need to serve the children and of your communities, and to make sure that we give you what the flexibilities that you need to operate your programs in a compliant fashion. In regards to our food nutrition emergency funding, we've talked about that the last 2 times. We do have a PowerPoint out on squaremeals.org if you want to have it in detail, if you missed those particular presentations that actually walk through what that food emergency funding is. You can actually look at that resource. But just to give you some updates on where we are with that, as we mentioned, we did submit our plan on February 2nd. We did get an acknowledgement that they received the plan. That was our application, our application. We have not received any approval of the application. We also have not received the template document for our implementation plan. So even though we are working behind the scenes as to what those payments would look like and who would get what in regards to our school districts, we are waiting to get that template from USDA so that we can submit our implementation plan. Once we do that, and that's across the nation, I spoke to about 7 other state directors just today, and across the nation, they are waiting to get that plan, the template from USDA before we submit our plan. We're in a holding pattern right there. So once that template is provided and we submit our plan and it's approved, USDA will have the data from across the states of how much money is needed. And then they believe that that funding will be available in June. And so that's when our payments will probably start after June and July. Some of the questions that we've had when I spoke about this before on previous calls is if that money sends you into an over 3-month net cash resources situation, will you have to do a CAD? And no, you will not. We will know more. Hopefully we'll be getting a template at least before the end of this month, since I believe these plans are due in April according to the regulation. So we hope to be getting those templates this month, and then we can get our presentation, our plan submitted to them and get it approved and let you know what will be coming your way. We will also, I was on a call with the ESCs yesterday, and they mentioned that you guys had trouble when we gave you that USDA food money last year. And so we want to make sure that you know the CFDA number that you're going to be utilizing for this emergency food program and what it's going to look like. We hope to have something in the line item on your check or your direct deposit so that you will know exactly what this money is coming from and you'll know where you need to post it. Of course, it needs to be placed into your food nutrition accounts, but you may use those fundings to pay for any local, that could be an allowable cost, any local support that you have had to keep yourself solvent during this COVID pandemic. One of the other things that we're working on is our pandemic electronic benefit transfer. And that, again, that has been expanded as well. The dollar amount is $6.82 instead of the $5+ we had last time. And that's per day, per child that's eligible. We are working on that plan with HHSC. That is actually their plan. We're supporting them on it. We'll be having a meeting next week to finalize what it will look like in Texas. And then once we submit it to USDA, they will have to approve that plan. We did have a conversation with them to go over what the plan infrastructure was so that they can see or guide us if we're missing anything before we submit that plan. So we hope that once we submit it, the approval will be quickly on that. And then they will start making the payments. They thought maybe sometime in April or May, and it could be later, but they might also spread them out through the years. One of the things that's going to impact you guys, I don't know if it'll be just you or if it'll be your administration, is they will do a survey to the school because they do have to know if the school, of course, has missed 5 days in a row once they started because they had to go out virtually. That makes the school eligible. And then we'll also be getting an eligibility list of students so that HHSC can use those to verify and validate the students who may apply, because those are non-SNAP kids will have to apply through HHSC's application. That's the plan so far, that they'll apply through an application if they're not on SNAP. If they are on SNAP, there'll be a type of formula that will be dealt with then. So we will keep you updated on that. That's a preliminary model right now. We'll keep you updated on what that looks like and what the impact might be to you. When it comes to the eligibility, we do know that only not even 60% of our schools are on National School Lunch Program. Over 40% are on a summer program, and you did not take applications. And remember that we can use the prior year's application during this time. So we'll be getting you more information on that. We don't have any firm information on the waivers, whether they're going to be extended or not into 2022. There are some indications, informal indications, that that is a real possibility, that the waivers will be extended through 2022, probably June of 2022. They do realize that we need this information probably yesterday, not tomorrow. And they're working on that, and we hope that they'll be getting us something soon. I don't have anything concrete other than to tell you there's some indication that that is the desire, to make sure that you guys have what you need to be able to respond still to the pandemic situation that we are in. We have not reached herd immunity. We do not have, in Texas, we do not have not even 7% of our population vaccinated. So we will be working through that with them and making sure we have let them know that the waivers are needed through 2022, but we'll know whether they're going to go that way for the nation or not. In that regard, until we do know that, our SFSP deadlines and timeframes are still in play. So, you know, that first one is March 15th, if people are wanting advances and following just the regular deadlines that we have. If Teresa is on the call later, she can give you what those actual deadlines are. The last thing that I want to bring to you, and then I'll ask for Lena and Catherine to speak, and Gwen, if she has anything, is regards to unmet need. There is still, of course, these things that are going on between the school districts and some of our private organizations. Know that if the school district is serving, I mean, actually serving, and we have had to check with some of you because it might be on your application, but you aren't actually doing it. But if you're actually serving those summer meals, then their private nonprofit cannot operate because you have met that need in that particular area, unless they've been able to show us you aren't meeting a particular population. So that unmet need is still there. Reminding you that they did hold USDA entitlement to a flat 2019, I believe. Lena can correct that when she speaks, but I believe you were held to 2019, so your entitlement continues to be based on that. So you won't lose based on what's going on with COVID. In addition, we are getting funding from summer, a lot more than we ever have. And we will be looking at what that impact will have on the state in regards to what we have available to administer these programs. At this time, I'm going to ask Gwen if she has anything that she would like to share.
No, I don't at this time, Angela. Thank you.
Okay. Catherine?
You covered it. Thank you.
All right. Lena?
Good afternoon, everybody. I have quite a few updates for you. And we can start with what Angela mentioned about entitlement, and she is correct that we have held your entitlement rates based on USDA's extension of the waiver based on the pandemic. So you all should have seen what your allocations are as the surveys are open right now and you all are submitting your orders. So continue to do so. You should not see any negative impacts based on your participation effects due to the pandemic. So I have a couple of other things to share, and I'm going to share my screen because it's some resources that are available that I want to go over with you. The first is you may, are you all able to see my screen with an excerpt of the website?
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you. So this is the page that was stood up in response to the winter storms. And we understand that many of you were shut down, your buildings were shut down, just as we experienced the same difficulties, both personally and in our job positions. But we set up a website pretty quickly to serve as a resource for you. And I just want to touch on one particular aspect of that website, because it's information that you might need to reference in case there's some cleanup that you need to do as a result of that winter storm. So if you go to our Square Mills site, you'll see under F&N resources, there's a weather event link. And the second piece of this link is tied to our CEs, our school operators. And so I'm just going to show you what came out of this. So we did extend the flexibilities of the meal pattern waivers. We heard from you that you weren't able to get milk and bread and whatever the challenges were as a result. And so you would still submit an intake form for that to be approved. And it is the same process that you've used all year as part of COVID, but we do still need to receive those requests from you. So you can access it where you normally do on our resources pages, or you can access it here. We also received a number of questions from you where you had entities who didn't have enough supplies because of the storm and not being able to receive their normal purchases. And so many districts were saying, can we just help out the local hospital or this entity and that entity? And unfortunately, as a child nutrition program, you're not able to use the funding that you receive to give to a third party in that manner. And so we have put the policy memos relating to what can happen with your food purchased with these federal funds, so that if you have to explain this to someone in your school district, you have the information to help you to do that. Now, we also included information on when you can donate food supplies. So we understand that many of you had to turn into emergency shelters. Many of you had product that was going to expire before your campuses were going to reopen and wanted to be able to provide those to food banks. And so we also on this webpage put the information so you would understand what steps were necessary for that to occur. And that those food banks and nonprofits would be an appropriate entity if you were in that circumstance and needed to share some of your food product. And then there's a lot more information about the emergency shelter processes. And to remind everyone, TDA works with a larger group of emergency managers across the state in response to any of these types of emergencies to try to pool our resources and make sure that we're responsive. The other thing that came out quite a bit, and I know this is a topic that frequently is raised, is, hey, we have these adults who are here helping to serve or helping to perform a task. Can we feed them for free? And as usual, you're not able to feed them for free out of your child nutrition dollars, but you can certainly work with your school district to make sure they know you're capturing the number of adults who are eating so that they can find another means, whether it's general funds or donations that they receive, to make sure they cover the cost of any adult meals. So there's a lot of information on this page if you need to go back and refresh yourself on what to do in an emergency. You know, I don't think anyone could have anticipated what occurred. We also had to extend some deadlines as a result of the storm, and most of that tied to food service management contracts, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. And so just like we have this website page to address the winter event, we have all along had a food service management company page on our website. And if you don't utilize one, you've likely not gone here, but there have been some recent updates to this page, and that's why I'm mentioning it today. And a couple of things have occurred. We have developed a FAQ for food service management companies so that based on all the questions we've received either from the educational service centers or in our conversations with districts. And so feel free to look at that FAQ document. And then we have conducted a series of webinars with school districts, but also about a week or so ago, we had a webinar specifically to talk about the outstanding compliance issues in the states that are involving food service management companies. And that webinar is available as well on our website if anyone might be affected and were not able to attend when it was offered. But you'll see we've had to extend some of our due dates. And you'll also see that we have developed a resource that really clearly discusses the compliance issues that we continue to talk about. And I won't spend time really reviewing this except to let you know where it is, and that if you have had communication with us or through your procurement review where we have discussed duplicative charges or cost or what the contract actually says, this resource makes that very clear. And you might want to share that with leadership in your school district so that they could maybe better understand what we need to address or you might need to address if you're having to issue a new solicitation, so that whatever contract you put in place next time is compliant to the terms and conditions that are laid out. So in relation to the food service management company clarification and FAQs and additional information, we have realized that there are some conflicts that have occurred with cooperatives. And TDA does not prohibit a school district from operating or participating with any cooperatives that they choose. Where there was some confusion is because some school districts were participating and utilizing a cooperative when their contract said that their food service management company would handle the procurement. So you can't have two entities responsible for the same service. So you can't have two different people responsible for the purchasing functions. So school districts need to make that decision. There's absolutely nothing wrong with utilizing a cooperative if that makes your lives easier. You just need to make sure that on any of those documents that you complete about who is maintaining what responsibility, that the district maintains the responsibility so that they can then outsource that to a cooperative. Likewise, TDA does not restrict school districts from participating with more than one co-op. We've had feedback that some people use one co-op for furniture, another co-op for food, and many other areas. And those agreements are between the school districts and the co-op interlocal agreements. And so we just want to be clear about that. Now, we do have news that one of our co-ops has decided to dissolve and no longer function as a co-op. And if that were to occur, you are able to join another co-op, provided that you don't have contract terms or something that prevents that from occurring. So you do not need to be concerned about whether or not this affects your abilities to utilize USDA foods. We understand right now the surveys are open and you are ordering. You will still be able to access your products that you have requested. That is not depending on you being a part of a co-op. We are looking at our solicitations right now for our new state warehouses. And if we have to make any of those adjustments, we will do that. But you should go on and order as you normally would, whether or not you're doing it through a co-op, so that we are aware of what products you will need and so that you have the items you need for your menus. So I just want to make sure people know that if my co-op dissolves, does that mean I can no longer use USDA foods? And it does not mean that. So we're happy to help you. The commodities operations team is happy to provide you with assistance if need be, but you always have your educational service centers who should be able to also assist you primarily with kind of working through these changes, and what they can't help you with, we certainly will be happy to do that. I think that's all the topics that I had. I am going to stop sharing my screen at this time.
Thank you, Lena. Corey, if you will open up the chat, we will address any questions that the schools may have. So this time is open for you. I will be reading those questions, and we will be responding and the proper SME will respond. The chat is open now. You mentioned ARs remaining virtual at this time. Will 21-22 ARs be virtual as well? At this time, everything is working that way until we really understand what is happening. We will continue to operate this way as long as the waivers are in effect. So I won't know for sure about the waivers until we get that from USDA. But if those waivers are still in effect, we have not received our integrity plan back from USDA as well. But we will continue to do virtual as much as possible to maintain your safety and ours. When is the financial report link open? When will it be open in TXU and PS? It still says it's not available.
I thought that was open. Mary, can you help?
Yeah, so the financial report has been submitted to all child nutrition directors as of January 1st. It is not through TXU and PS. So if you did not receive that, please send an email to our school.operations mailbox, and we will send that to you.
Okay. The next question is asking, do we have any guidance about the face mask? And I thought I saw something come through before about TEA. Catherine, are you on the call? TDA will not be issuing anything to child nutrition about face masks. I think you're going to have to follow whatever Commissioner Morath says. And I thought I saw something come through earlier that TEA had submitted or was sending some information out. Catherine?
I will look for that and get back with you all before we conclude today.
Okay. Our general fund is going to have to make us whole at the end of this fiscal year. Can you address acceptable methods for general fund to recoup those funds from us at a later time? So you're saying make you whole before you go into your next fiscal year, and it depends on when your fiscal year is. If your fiscal year ends in August, you should have this funding from your emergency fund. Now, if you have a loan from the general fund, you know that loan can't carry over from year to year. No debt can carry over from food nutrition from one year to the other. So when you get that funding, if there is some legitimate things that happen through your local revenue that you're trying to repay, that's an allowable use of those funds. But once we pass and close the year, you cannot carry over bad debt into the new year. What if we had to discard food due to power outage? And I'm assuming you're talking about USDA foods.
Well, any of the food, Angela, that they would have discarded, they need to file with their insurance company. So they'll need to look at what their policies indicate and file those claims with their insurance providers.
Okay. And if we need to add that to our website, we will do so. Mary Gomez has placed a link for the financial report in the chat, guys, so at about 2:27. So if you go look at the chat, you can have that link. Any idea when Farm to School survey will open for orders in TX UNPS?
So the hang up with the farm to school surveys is that those are tied to your delivery schedules. And those delivery schedules are attached to the warehouse and set up by the warehouse that services your area. Because we are currently going through an evaluation process for that warehouse, we need to wait until we get those contracts in place. So it's probably not going to be for another month until we get those set up to get your survey requests. If we do it before then and you complete a survey and we get a different delivery schedule, we'd have to clear all those surveys and you'd have to start over. So we don't want to do duplicative work. And as usual, those surveys will stay open until the end of July. So you'll have ample time to go in and complete those surveys when they are open.
My district delivered food Wednesday for 5 days before the storm. I will be able to claim the food for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm sure, just to clarify, y'all delivered on Wednesday before the storm, and then you went into the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the week of the storm. Just to be clarified, and yes, you may be able to claim that. I'm having a horrible time with the financial report. Is it me, or is there a problem with the JOT form?
Okay, I'll address that, Angela. No, there hasn't been issues with the financial report. However, we understand that this is a different format than the previous year. Our team has been helping school districts with the financial report, just making sure that everybody understands. If you've not received an answer related to a question you might have, please redirect that to your school, the school operations mailbox, and we'll get somebody to assist you as soon as possible. There are resources on squaremeals.org under the compliance page related to the webinar and additional forms that you can access. And again, we'll be happy to assist you if you're having any difficulty with that.
Can they also reach out to their service center?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Art. We really do appreciate the acknowledgement of setting that web page up quickly and handling and approving your emergency feeding. I'll share your comments with the staff as well. Thank you so much. Can you provide that email address?
Mary provided it a little bit.
Are you talking about the financial report link? Is that what they're talking about?
Yes, that's what I thought.
Okay. If that's what you're talking about, it's in at 227, I believe, in the chat.
I went ahead and added it again.
Thank you. TEA just released a statement that districts can continue to operate with mask and current policy. Thank you, David. I thought I saw something come through about that. We responded to the notice of duplicative purchasing contract renewal / rebid and CAD, but have not received a response back from CE procurement reviews via, I guess you're saying the email. When can we anticipate a response? We believe we can renew our FSMC contract based upon our provided response. So
we are actually reviewing those responses now, and we hope to have some correspondence with all our CEs by the end of this week.
Also, in addition to what was said earlier about TEA, we understand they're promising to release new mask guidance for schools later in the week, but what you just said was they released and that you can continue with your mask and current policy for now. Currently, we have a policy district-wide that students must wear masks. We do have some students that try to not wear the mask in the serving area. Is it okay to not service them without a mask? I was never able to ask the question. Well, what I will tell you is that the governor has rescinded the mask mandate, and he's also said that there can be no penalty or arrest from it. So going in that vein, I think you can ask people to wear them, encourage them to wear them, but I don't know that you can withhold service if they don't wear them. and you can check with your local administration, and they might be able to help you more with that. Our district has notified us. Okay, thank you guys. Y'all all have provided me information about TEA. All right, we tried that. I already gave you that, Danielle. It's back in there again, the financial report email. Can you post a link to the milk waiver in the chat, please? So can somebody do that?
I'll put it there.
Thank you. Also, there's someone saying they don't think the formula for question 16 on the JOT form is correct. It does not equal Q11 plus Q12 minus Q13. So please look at question 16 on the JOT form and make sure that the formula is accurate, unless you've already checked it, Mary.
Yes, we have checked it. We can again reach out to this particular CE because it is dependent on what information is being provided. So again, it's a little bit of a formula dependent on what has been entered into those questions.
Chris, it depends on when you came on. If you came on after the chat, I found this out myself. If I were to come on or went off and came back after the chat, I can't see what was before. I can only see what is once I came on. So if there's something you're missing or you need, let us know. I've not been receiving the invite to TDA webinars just recently. Apparently some of us have been dropped from the distribution list. Luckily, my superintendent forwarded the info and our wonderful ESC sent it to us. So we will check what's happening with the distribution list and make sure that we have the right one. I will say, you know, we were thinking of picking this back up and having it weekly or every other week while we have, again, a lot of flex. We're in a state of flux. And so I want to make sure y'all have the ability to have someone and have us come on and talk to you and answer your questions. So be thinking about that, whether you want one next week or every other week. Thank you, Dana. We appreciate the accolades. Believe me, the team will be glad to hear it. There's not one person in Texas, other than maybe if you were in El Paso, and then I think you were impacted because you probably knew some people who were impacted by what happened 2 weeks ago and that we're still trying to come from under. So we're constantly trying to work and make sure that we're still supporting you guys. So we really do appreciate you acknowledging the effort of the staff. Okay, Dana says she's in the chat, all panelists and attendees, and it's not showing for you. The chat is not showing. Are y'all checking down on the bottom and where it says chat next to participants, clicking that to make sure you can see the chat?
It's at 2:33 p.m. where she posted it the second time.
Right. But I think some people are still not seeing the entire chat. Is what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
They can see all panelists and attendees and they can't see the chat. So if you go to the bottom of the Zoom page, if you just hover your mouse over that, because you won't see it, it'll go blank. But if you hover your mouse over that, it'll show you we're at 521 participants, and right next to that'll be a chat.
Hey, and Mary, what it's showing is just the school ops website, but what I think they're for is the actual link to the JOT form. Is that not possible to provide?
Yes, I will provide it right now.
So you'll see how I just put the JOT form link for the meal pattern waiver. Can you do the same for the financial report? I think that'll help.
Yes, just did it.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a question. Did we already check contract packet checklist school year 2021 and 22? Because hers just saying unapproved.
So we are reviewing the contract packets now. We don't approve the overall packet until we're done ordering because it would prevent you from being able to move around your entitlement as needed. But we do go in and we are in the process of looking at the internal section, reviewing the documents and getting those approved. We do have quite a few folks that we are reaching out to because they may have submitted their contract and then withdrew it, and we need you to resubmit it so we can do our review. But we are reviewing those now to get those approved.
Thank you, Jackie. There's some wonderful information for those of you who do see the chat from David Hayward. And I'll just read a little bit of it. And if for some of you can't, of course, he goes in to talk about Governor Abbott's and how he issued his executive order regarding covering wearing a face mask. And he's lifted that order. As a result of the lifting of the order on masks, TEA has updated its public health guidance. And under this updated guidance, a public school system's current practices on masks may continue unchanged. Local school boards have full authority to determine their local mask policy. And TEA has also made updates related to surface cleaning requirements. Additionally, DSHS, Department of State Health Services, announced today that educators and school support staff are eligible for vaccines effective immediately. And so that's great information. Thank you so much for that. Paid lunch equity on the financial report. Not quite sure, Amanda, what your question is, unless Miriam know. It just says paid lunch equity on the financial report. So if you could, Amanda, put an additional question in there, clarification to help us know.
Yeah, so that is a question that's being asked on the financial report, whether or not the CE had an excess, or whether a CE has a positive or zero balance as of December 31st, 2019. So it is something that the CE has to answer to determine if they are taking the paid lunch equity exemption.
Okay. For those of you who were looking for the link to email your questions, it is at 232, and it is school.operations@texasagriculture.gov. So that's school.operations@texasagriculture.gov. How are we going to find the total of the COVID emergency reimbursement that the district will receive? We are calculating that amount, TDA, so the district doesn't have to do anything with that. We will be calculating that and we will send that out to you guys. We haven't determined yet whether that's something that we're going to publicly post or if we're going to send out a notification about how much that is. We're still working on that. We have a great methodology for the schools. That one was pretty easy. But you will know that amount when we actually do send that amount to you. We did talk about people who wanted to kind of have a heads up about that amount, what that formula is. And if you go on our website in FNN resources, you will see that PowerPoint on the federal emergency funding for revenue loss, and it will walk through what the formula is, and you can go through that formula and get you a preliminary amount. But remember that ours will be based on the claims that are in our system. Okay. A lot of people saying they don't see the link. Link still doesn't appear. Hopefully it's there. I'll find it eventually.
It's at 239.
At 2:30. Okay. At 2:33, guys, you have the link from Lena on the actual milk jot form. That's at 2:33.
239 is the jot form for the financial report from Mary.
So to clarify, our RFP was submitted to TDA prior to February 25th. I recall on the FSMC webinar that if we do not receive the approved RFP back from TDA in time to advertise and finalize the process by our April board meeting, that there may be individual exceptions regarding the April 30th deadline. For advertising, our local newspaper publishes only twice a week with very early deadlines for submitting publication requests.
So I can speak to that, Angela. So Sandra, just to remind you, a couple of things at play. Your advertising is not just going to be in your local paper. It has to be in the larger metropolitan area to make sure that you get as much of a response as possible. So not just your local paper because it's limited. But we did talk about on the webinar that if we did not have the ability to get you your approved solicitation back so that you could it in time, that we would consider that, and we would be looking at that on a case-by-case basis. I can tell you that our legal team has added additional resources to help them with the review of the service management company solicitations. As indicated on that call, we are having a thorough review to make sure you all don't have to go through the cycle and either material changes or non-compliance in the So right now, we believe we're still on track. The goal is to make sure that everyone has their solicitations back by March the 15th to give you enough time to post and advertise and be able to meet that deadline. If that does not occur and we do not get those back to you timely, we will certainly be in discussions with you on what modifications we need to make to any due dates, but that is certainly up for discussion.
Thanks, Lena. Summer reviews are happening on a very tight timeline in comparison to previous ARs. 21 site information to be submitted within 2.5 weeks. This timeline overlaps 10 days of site reviews in addition to the procurement reviews happening concurrently. Can you speak to this timeline and how it differs from previous years? We can. One of the things, just remember that we're operating summer food service during a time we normally don't operate it. And so therefore we're doing summer reviews at a time we normally wouldn't do. There's 2 seasons right now currently of summer reviews, and one is what they were calling summer food service COVID, and then we'll have our traditional summer during the months. And so your procurement reviews, remember, we are still on schedules. We still have to conduct things within a certain period of time. We have not got our plan approved from USDA of how we were thinking of expanding that and moving it out so that we could navigate with our resources being up and down because of COVID and different things like that. So if you were already scheduled for an AR for NSLP and the procurement review was going on and you're still in NSLP, you would have that. For those of you who were operating summer, then you would still be having the procurement review, but also having the summer review at the same time. And those reviews operate a little bit differently, and that's where you're probably getting some of the compressed timeline. But it is because of that. And as we go into 21, 22, if they continue on and many of you continue to do a summer program, we're going to be doing those reviews. As long as the summer program is there, we have to do those reviews. And so what would normally happen in 3 months is now happening year round. And unfortunately, we're doing absolutely every program year round. So every program has to have meet the review timelines based on regulation. Lena, anything you want to add to that?
No.
Or anybody from
Mary, do you have anything to add? But I think that's correct.
Okay. No, ma'am.
All right. Okay, the meal pattern waiver link also is at 235. Anyone needing that? Okay.
Corey, thank you for putting your email for people who are not getting the notification so they can be added to the list. So everyone at 237, I hope you see that Corey has provided her email for you.
Mary, there's a question that says, can the nonprofit school food service account be considered what we have in Access after 12/31/19 for question 20?
So USDA is very specific on the dates of when we can, or when the CE determines whether they have a positive or zero balance. That's the date they have set. And we have not received any type of waiver from USDA based on that determination. So it would need to be what the balance is as of 12/31/2019.
Okay. Hopefully everybody, again, as Lena said, that link for the financial report is at 2:39. I missed the first few minutes of the webinar. Did you mention when the list of schools due an AR for 21-22 will be sent out? We normally don't send them out this early. I do know that much. Lena, do you have that date? But they won't be going out this early.
Well, we also, Angela, they may be delayed a little bit longer because, as you know, we have flexibilities that are in place that are affecting the schedule. So if school districts are operating summer, they are being moved to a later cycle within, later year within our cycle. But we are still working on compiling that and awaiting some additional guidance before we can finalize. What we don't want to happen is kind of what happened this year is a number of people were scheduled and then we had to scramble because you switch programs and we, that changed how the reviews would occur. So not quite yet. Hopefully, if we can get some guidance from USDA on these waivers continuing, we'll be able to get that schedule tightened up a little bit.
And as you guys may remember, we did have to submit an integrity plan to USDA that told them how we were going to ensure the integrity of these programs. And that includes our schedules and how we're actually going to do reviews and all of that. And that is still with USDA. They've acknowledged receipt. They've been back and forth asking questions, but we don't have the approval on it yet. So even what we're doing now, we're operating ahead because we just don't have the approval yet to know if there's something they wanted us to do differently. When completing the COVID-19 data request form, Section 3A, CACFP site counts ask for everything besides site counts from an at-risk meals without an area eligibility waiver. Is TDA not requesting at-risk site counts for traditional CACFP at-risk sites that do not operate with waivers? And most of that information that you're getting from the COVID-19 is because we have to respond to USDA and tell them how widely the waivers were used, what was the impact of the waiver and all of that. So it is really about you utilizing waiver for COVID-19. And having to know how many sites were doing that. Thank you. I'm getting some of you are telling me weekly and some are saying bi-weekly. Can there be a webinar and a bi-weekly moving forward? It seems like it has been one or other, but it's nice to have both. Oh, I'm assuming, Kristen, are you talking about the FSMC webinars? What exactly are you talking about? Are you talking about the bi-weekly report? Help me understand what you're saying there. I think you're considering this our webinar, and then the bi-weekly is what's coming from the ESCs in a report. Help me make sure I got that right. Okay. May I speak? Of course. Lena, do you have something you want to share here?
I spoke to Sandra's question. That was the question earlier about the food service management company deadlines. So I think we're good.
Okay.
I saw a response from her. I see, Sandra, you responded. Thank you.
Okay. March presents many deadlines for CEs, financial reports, commodity processing, CEP, waiver intake forms, etc. Would it be possible to get a list of all of the deadlines before April 1st? Yes, we can work on that as a resource. Catherine, would you take that down, please? The waiver intake form is the form if you're on a waiver, if you're operating waivers, first of all, if you wanted a waiver, you had to submit a form to get approved for a waiver. Secondly, if you're operating waiver, there is a monthly form that you are submitting to tell us about your meals that are being served. And that's all on our website as well. Sounds like a lot of people have questions about question 16, Mary. So I don't know if we need to elaborate on our website about that or in the instructions. I had an AR in October. I will do seamless summer option for the summer. Will I get a review?
Nicole?
Sorry, if they had an administrative review under National School Lunch this year and they're operating seamless summer this summer, then yes, they'll have a review. And in addition, we do have a couple from last summer. If you operated seamless summer last year and had an administrative review and didn't receive a seamless summer review, then it'll probably be moved to this year, but we'll be contacting the CE individually about that.
Okay. Another question on that, question 16. So it sounds like we really need to give some guidance on question 16, some more guidance and instruction. Also,
Angela, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to put the formula in the chat, and I can also update the compliance page so that they have that information.
Okay. Also, it seems to be people are having problems getting health inspections. And Nicole, you want to speak to that report? Because I don't believe that we're having to submit that because of what is going on, but you want to speak to that?
Yes, that's correct. That's one of the reports that is not submitted. I know Teresa's group is the one that handles that directly, Angela, but I believe that falls under the waivers.
Okay. While I go down looking to see what our other questions are, I'm going to ask Brooke to come on and present some information.
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Angela. You saw my little plug in the chat for the CACFP input work group. So I wanted to let you all know that the application for membership for the 2021-2022 CACFP input work group is now open. It'll be open through April 23rd. Every other month, the input work group members meet virtually. We've been using the Zoom platform pretty successfully. The input and feedback from these meetings help guide TDA as we work to provide resources and trainings for our CACFP CEs to successfully operate the program in Texas. There is more information on the website. I put the link into the chat. I'll put that link back into the chat after I finish speaking. But you all should have received an email if your school also operates one of the CACFP programs, such as the at-risk after-school program. That email went out Monday morning, and it included those schools. And that includes the links as well if you don't get them from the chat. So I encourage you to please take a minute to look at the resources we put on Square Meals website. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me. I'll put my email in there as well. And please feel free to reach out to your colleagues who are currently members. We have several ISD representatives on the input work group, and they can also tell you more about the input work group and their experiences. And we here at TDA really encourage you to learn more and to apply for membership in the group. Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. I'm going to share all of these comments that you guys are applauding the team. I think they would love to hear them at our next all staff. You do not need to apply for waivers, reapply for waivers every month. Once you've applied for the waiver, we assume you're on the waiver until you tell us you're not on the waiver. And that's what the monthly intake form does. You can say, I'm no longer on it. And you can just give us the data that we're asking for, but it's not asking you to reapply for the waiver. In regards to the health inspections, if you guys are trying to get them and you can't get them, just document that information. You can have that there. Right now, we usually send that information as a report we have to give to USDA every year. That's been moved back for this year. So we know you're having a hard time and people getting out there. Just document your efforts and keep that on file. That's generally what we would look at. Okay, thank you guys. I'm seeing a lot of weekly. In the last meeting, there was discussion that we are supposed to notify TDA how many meals are being served congregate versus non-congregate. Is this just done through the CVGG when we process a claim, or is there a report I'm supposed to complete? It is done through the intake form.
And that is completed monthly when you file a claim. Sorry, Angela. That's
no, go ahead.
That's that monthly intake form that Angela has been speaking of that started January. Before that, the data was compiled for several months, but beginning January, you guys were to report how many meals you served under the waiver. Again, like she said, that was so that we can report to USDA because they want to know how many meals are being served under the waivers.
We're 1 minute over, but we only have one question left. So I'm excited about that. We generally don't get through all of them on this call. Any suggestions about, well, we did only have one question. If we're using SSO, but some schools are wanting to start having school snacks, what should we do, Nicole? If we are using SSO, but schools are wanting to start having after school snacks, what should we do? If you're talking about doing the at-risk program, then you just have to make sure that that's in your application. You would have to file an application to run after school snacks. Now, the thing is now, Teresa, if you put in an application now to do CACFP after school snacks, if there's a private entity already operating in that area, you're not gonna have an unmet need. So because we gave the schools that time to have first priority, once that was over, then the private nonprofits came in. And so if you're trying to operate in an area and it's going to kick out a private nonprofit, you probably would not be approved at this time. Now, next year, of course, the ball game starts all over again. Any suggestions about summer meal program material? Is it allowable to receive less materials? Suggestions on how we're to get these out to students who are mainly learning virtually. I know a message was sent out to 25 to respond by 3/5. So I guess you're talking about the materials that we send out to you guys to actually send out to your student population. And now there is a requirement that the school districts do notify and do submit things out. You might want to talk to your school administration if they're, because I know they're sending some things out to kids. And we can also look and see, I don't know if there's any virtual things that we've got developed. Catherine?
We do. I'll highlight those in our next call. Okay. But we have prepared things that schools could put into their online newsletters or whatever they're using right now to communicate critical information to students.
Okay. So our final question is only 3 minutes over. Are the procurement reviews still on hold? No, they're not. We held them for a little bit while everybody got situated, but they're not on hold anymore. Thank you guys again for your attention, for your questions and your comments. That really, really does help us. Corey did put her email in the chat. Please check that. If you did not get this, let her know so we can make sure we add your name back. We will have the meeting next week and we'll level set again if we want to continue to go on. I hope by next week we do have some good information for you on emergency funding and PEBT and our waivers. That's what we're hoping for. So hope with us. You guys stay safe out there. And again, thank you for absolutely all that you are doing. We appreciate you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.